Loss comes in many forms, and usually in unexpected ways. It can be devastating, leaving you facing an uphill struggle to go on with life without someone you thought would always be there. But life does go on, and even in the deepest despair, we can find hope. Welcome to Grief Relief with your hosts, Drs. Gloria and Heidi Horsley, brought to you by the Open to Hope Foundation, helping people find hope after loss. And now here's Dr. Gloria and Dr. Heidi.
Hello, welcome to our show. I'm your host, Dr. Gloria Horsley, with my co-host and daughter,
Dr. Heidi Horsley.
Well, we're going to talk today about a tough topic, and I have to tell you that it's dear to my heart right now because I've lost two siblings in the last 3 years, my oldest sister and my oldest brother. Now, I lost a son 30 years ago, and I'll have to say that I think it's different losing adult siblings, but I think there's some of the commonalities. So I'm going to be interested in listening today about some people who've lost younger siblings and connect them with mine. And for our audience, I think that you might have some thoughts about this too. We're going to have Keith Singer on the show. He's a bereaved sibling, and comedian Jordon Feber, who's a bereaved sibling, and of course Heidi, who's a bereaved sibling. And also we're going to have award-winning singers and actors Capathia, Jenkins, and Iman. And they are great singers, and they're going to sing a very heart-rending song about sisters. And Heidi, you want to set up a little bit about that song before we
Sure, it's really powerful, and I actually saw them do it at the New York Film Festival. It was a music festival in Midtown Manhattan. It's a song about, it's based on Harriet Tubman's life, and it's a song about the very last time that Harriet and her sister are together. And they will never ever see each other again. And just how heartbreaking it is to suddenly be separated from your sibling forever. And you know, Keith and Jordon and I know what it's like to have someone in the prime of your life, your sibling, all of a sudden be completely gone.
Right.
And that's basically what this story is. And when I saw it in Harriet Tubman, all I could think about was Scott. And the fact that, you know, he was in my life, and then all of a sudden when I was 20, he was just gone in an instant.
And I want to say quickly before we get on to our guests that I'm very proud to say that my cousin actually wrote the Harriet, the musical, Colette Call, and her brother Michael. And so we're very excited to have this music on later.
It's powerful.
But and we're also going to take some questions from our studio audience, and we appreciate their being here today. So Heidi, you want to introduce our guests?
I would love to, because these guys are seriously two of my favorite people in the world. And let me introduce Keith first. Keith Singer's sister Lori died in a car accident while serving in the Navy, and he is very active in the Compassionate Friends Sibling program. He oversees the Compassionate Friends Facebook page, which we'll talk a little bit about. He's presented a lot of Compassionate Friends workshops. And he also guest lectured in my class at Columbia University. He knocked it out of the ballpark. My students loved it. They knew nothing about sibling loss. And they're going to be therapists, so you know they need to know what is unique about sibling loss and what are the issues that we as siblings face. So he's a fabulous person. I'm really glad to have him here. And he does his work basically as a tribute to his sister Lori. So thank you, Keith, for being here. And then there's Jordon Feber, who's also another one of my favorite people. Jordon's brother Russell died in a car accident when he was only 21 years old. Both Jordon and Keith are only siblings. They lost their only sibling. He facilitates the Compassionate Friends sibling meetings here in New York City. He is the go-to person for that in Manhattan. And he has presented workshops at Compassionate Friends for over 9 years. He just did one that said, what was it? What about How's Your Mother?
It was called How's Your Mother?
Which I loved. And we'll talk more about that and how you came up with that name, Jordon. And he's a stand-up comic, and he's very funny. And I think humor is so important when you're grieving, just to kind of shift your energy around.
Absolutely. And we're going to see a little roll-in by Jordon. Maybe we ought to see it right now.
Okay.
Get started.
This is what I've always wanted to do. I told my mother when I was 9. 9 years old, I told my mother I was going to do stand-up. I told her not to worry. I know comedians don't make a lot of money, but I plan on living off of you guys for a while. So. Yes, which I did. That came true. Yeah, I basically lived with my parents until it was no longer socially acceptable. And even then I only left because that's when it starts getting a lot harder to lie to women to get them to come over. Just so you know, my roommates are a little older. One of them might tuck me in later. Don't even worry about it, really, it's fast. She's in and out. But the thing is, really, my parents are pretty cool. They didn't make it easy for me to want to leave. My parents are pretty cool. My dad might be the coolest 71-year-old you will ever meet in your life. As long as you don't hang out with him for too long. But he is cool. If you don't think my dad is cool, try to think about any other lawyer you have ever met in your life that you would enjoy spending social time with. Yeah. My dad is cool. My dad, he wears a bow tie, he drives a Vespa, he owns a vaporizer. Pretty cool. He'll show his age eventually, though. We were walking around the village once. He was like, "Oh, Jordon, they sell dungarees over here. Don't you need to get a new pair of dungarees?" I'm like, what the? Am I getting too big for these britches? Is that what happened? I was going to purchase some pantaloons on the way home, if that was possible. But they're very supportive. My dad actually, funny enough, my dad bought me a t-shirt a number of years ago that said, "Bank of Dad, a lending institution for as long as I can remember." And I used to wear it, and it was really cute, till I saw a homeless man wearing the same t-shirt. I'm like, oh. Guess that's why sometimes my dad's a little stingy with the loans. Covering more than just me. I told him the story, and he was like, "Oh, come on, you're not homeless." I was like, "Okay. Well, thanks for dinner. Appreciate the dinner."
I love that. That is so good.
Yep.
Like I said, it's so important, I think, when you're grieving and when you're in that place, to be able to laugh. And I think the hard part is, Jordon, and my mom and I talked about this earlier, the guilt that you have when you first start to laugh and you first start to think things are funny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I think, you know, that was early on. You know, the first couple of years, you catch yourself smiling or enjoying yourself, and then there's that moment where you think, oh, well, you know, the person that I probably would have shared this moment with isn't here, so you sort of feel that guilt as well as feeling like the moment has passed. You know, there's no one to share it with. What's the point of being able to? But I think it's important to have those moments for yourself where you can laugh, especially in the darkest parts of life.
Absolutely, and I'm wondering how long it took for you. I mean, initially after Russell died, did you stop doing your stand-up routines?
I did. Well, I was working with a group at the time called Comedy Gone Wild, and the guy that produced those shows put together a series of showcases at Madison Square Garden in the Comedy Garden. So it was about 600 seats. The first one was in June of 2002, and Russell was at that show, and then he died in July, and the second one was in August.
Wow.
And I didn't know if I was going to be able to do it at all, but I felt like I needed to. It was, I sold 125 tickets to the show. You know, people were coming to the house for sitting Shiva and stuff and asking, well, is there anything that I could do? And I said, well, I got a big show coming up, Madison Square Garden, and so that I had to do that, I think, for my own sanity and for my own, just to prove to myself that my life wasn't over, you know, that I still had things that I wanted to accomplish, and as difficult as some of that stuff was, I don't think I was particularly good on that show in August, but I think it was, the act of doing it was very important.
Well, I think you're making a good point, because we need people to realize that our life isn't totally over and destroyed.
Right.
And I'm sure Keith can speak to this too.
I think for me, took me a long time to deal with it. I think for me, I didn't deal with the loss. I just sort of ignored it. I was away at college, so I sort of went back. I was able to escape and go back to college. Also, my sister was in the Navy, so for me, a lot of it was she's still in the Navy, out of sight, out of mind. So it wasn't until years later that just started to, I guess, holding off. It all started to come down, where it started to hit me all at once.
Now, with the advent of the internet, you've been able to help with the Compassionate Friends. Talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So we have group on Facebook. So actually it allows siblings to talk openly among just other siblings. So where it's very open and honest, and no fear of parents or anybody else or anyone else they know having to see or hear about how they feel. So it's
pretty amazing, Keith. And I know that Jordon is on this too, and I've seen you guys, because I'm a member. It's called Sounds of the Siblings.
Yep.
It's the Compassionate Friends, and it's a Facebook page. And I've watched, you know, sometimes I'm just watching, and I'm a member there. But, you know, someone will come in and say, look, I'm new to this group. My brother died 3 weeks ago. I don't know how I'm going to survive. And I see you guys coming in, you know, saying, I've been there. We're there for you. Kind of like lean on our hope until you found your own. And you will eventually survive. And it's so important for people, especially during anniversary dates and during difficult times, which we all have, to know that they're not alone out there.
Yeah. Well, the biggest part, I think, is also it's very important that we all get a chance to vent about stuff. And this is one of those situations where you go to try to vent about this stuff to some of your friends that haven't been through it.
And they say, how's your mother?
And they say, they find ways to avoid that conversation, usually, or to, you know, put a spin on it that's, people just don't understand there is no real fixing it, you know. You just have to, it's important to vent it and to give legitimacy to what you're feeling.
And for how long?
Yeah.
So I think another issue is that eventually, like, okay, we get it in the beginning for 6 months, maybe they'll accept it, but after that point, you know, the rest of the world sort of expects you to sort of, okay, get on and aren't you over it? Yeah. So this group really gives an opportunity for also not only new people, but also people that have been bereaved for a year, 2 years, 5 years, you know, able to come into the group and not feel where, you know, not get that response where, oh, you're still grieving after 16 years.
Right, what's wrong with you?
Right, what's wrong, exactly.
And instead, and realizing that we don't get over it, we learn to live with it.
Right.
And we go on, but we go on and continue bonds with our brothers and sisters in new and different ways. And that I always say closure is for bank accounts, not love accounts.
Right.
What is closure? Do we want Russell and Lori and Scott and Marilyn and Bill not to ever exist in our lives?
Right.
We are who we are today because they were in our lives.
You know, one of the problems that I don't have is that my parents have also passed away. So even though my siblings have died, people aren't saying to me, how are your parents doing?
Right.
So I honestly get a little, you know, more support in a different way than you guys got, because isn't there the big, how are your parents doing?
Absolutely.
Well, and I think that's why Jordon did come up with the title for his workshop, How is Your Mother?
Yeah. The problem really is not that people ask, how's your mother? It's that they very often ask, how's your mother, without ever asking, how are you?
Good point.
But it's kind of funny that my mother actually came up with the title.
Oh, I love it.
For that
God
workshop.
bless your mother.
Yeah.
Well,
she came to me, she said, oh, I have the perfect idea for your next workshop. I said, all right, let's hear it. She said, how's your mother? Damn it, that's pretty good.
I think we've got some questions. We've got an audience, and we've got some questions from our audience today for you guys. So
that's awesome.
Let's see if we can get a couple of questions for you.
All right, fire away.
All right.
My name is Varda, and this question is for Jordon. Jordon, you said that you went into your comedy routine right after your brother passed away. How long did it take you to continue doing it, or did you stop doing it for a while? I know it must have been very difficult.
Well, it was. I stopped for about, maybe about 3 weeks before I started to, when I really decided that I was going to go and do that show in August at the Garden, I had to get ready for it. I did I had a handful of shows that I did where I was not sober and didn't really care, and so I had to get some. It was probably about a week before that show that I started to put together some shows that I did that got me back on my feet, and I, cleared my head out and got back up there. I didn't know what else to do with myself, so it wasn't a question of whether or not I was going to continue. It was how long I was going to be away from it for. And I went to a show that a friend of mine was doing, and I think it was about 3 weeks after Russell died that I went to this show, and I just laughed my butt off for an hour and a half, and it was the first hour and a half that I had spent that I didn't think about how sad I was for that hour and a half. And I thought to myself, well, that's why part of the reason that I do this as well, is to give that solace to other people that come to see me.
Very brave of you,
Hi, I'm Babe. I got a question for Jordon.
All right, Babe.
How are your parents doing?
Yeah, my parents are good, you know. We're the three of us pretty close. They still, they live here in the city, so I see them on a fairly regular basis. Yesterday was their 40th wedding anniversary, so they found some ways to get away. So they're doing good.
That question is always interesting to me. You know, and I answer it so differently now, because when people say to me, was it hard for your parents? My answer usually is yes, and it was hard for me too.
Yeah. Well, I remember the beginning when people would ask me, how's your mother? And I'd say, well, I imagine she's doing about as badly as I am.
I like that.
That's a good answer.
Good.
Yeah.
Let's see, I think we've got another question here.
Hi, my name's Claire, and my question is for Keith. I wonder how you think sites like Facebook and other social media can really help siblings connect with their grief.
Sure. I think they're great. I think that it allows, if you don't have someplace to go locally or somebody that you can talk to locally, I think that it takes down all walls, it takes down all the barriers, and it just opens up doors for people, all places, all across the world actually, to sort of come together. And
I want to add something to that. I totally agree with what you're saying, Keith. You know, sometimes we grieve in the middle of the night. Sometimes we grieve when everybody's asleep and we're at the window looking outside going, is anyone else out there?
Sure.
And now we can just log on to Facebook and we can either share or we can follow what other people have been through and feel like, okay, you know what? We're not the only ones that had a brother or sister die. And when it happens to you and you're young, and we were all young when it happened to us, you feel like you're the only one it's ever happened to. My friends had never had a brother or sister die.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's so nice to be able to go on Facebook and go on this site.
How about
24/7.
me? Can I go on at this age?
no.
You can definitely go on anytime.
Oh.
Yes, anytime you want, Mom. Because like you said, you always your siblings lived a long life, but you never knew the world without them. They were
Right.
your older brothers and sisters.
Exactly, and I can't call them up and get all sorts of information from them and hang out with them.
Yes, this Facebook page is for any age. Anybody that's lost a brother or sister.
Any age, anyone that lost a sibling, I would say. Not for parents. We do sometimes get requests from parents. They just want to sort of follow along, and we ask, we do point them to parents, parent sites or places where they can go for help. But ultimately, it is for siblings.
And I know
children
the
lost a
Compassionate
sibling.
Friends National Conference has, and where's it going to be next year? I can't even remember.
In Dallas.
In Dallas in July.
Yep.
And I know they have adult sibling classes and all sorts of great things going on. And, for older adults and, and younger.
I did a workshop this year because you guys, I think both of you, somebody told me, okay, this is what we need, Heidi. We need an adult sibling loss workshop. And so I did one for adult sibling loss, and a lot of the adults in there had children and siblings die.
Right.
And so, yes, if there is a need for that.
Yep. So we've got another question.
Hi, I'm Tom. Since you're both now only children, is there any pressure on either of you to have children of your own?
Oh, good question.
Oh, boy.
I like that.
That is a question that I think, that answers itself, that one. Yes, there's quite a bit. My parents have been pretty good about not explicitly saying, where's my grandbabies?
They just give you baby booties for Christmas.
I mean,
I hear it all the time. Absolutely, a lot of pressure. But I think it goes further than that to say there's a lot of pressures just in general about now being an only child. Being the only one that has to take all that weight of the parents, and it's not like I can just say, hey, call my sister and say, hey, deal with mom or deal with dad, get them off my back. It just seems like there's like a lot of pressure in general now.
But you're
being the only
married,
one.
right?
I am married.
And Jordan's not.
Not yet.
So Jordan's available.
Well, no, I'm not
He's got a
available. I am with a significant other, and we have been together for quite a while. So this is,
So we can't put you out on the market.
more than likely the person that I will be marrying.
Right.
So
But
it's,
and it's an interesting thing, though, because you guys are saying you are the go-to kids now.
Right.
You're it.
right.
You're the everything for your parents, basically.
Sure.
So you have to fill the void that Russell and Lori, that void. Even though there's some things we can fill, and we step up and do it, and there's other roles that we can never fill, no matter what we do.
I do feel that way. I feel that the pressure to have children, to say, oh, I got to rush to do it because I know that she's getting older and would love to have grandchildren, but I'm not really ready at this very second, and I would feel like if my sister was around, and maybe I could share some of that and say, hey, you're up.
Right.
Yeah. I always felt like Russell was supposed to be the one that had a responsible family anyway. The lifestyle of a comedian doesn't necessarily lend itself to having a baby.
Right.
As you know.
No, I don't know. There'd be some good jokes.
Yeah, right. Most of them are going to be on me, though.
Now, I wanted to, well, maybe have we got another question? If not, I wanted to ask you guys if you have any special rituals or anything that you do.
Rituals?
Related to your sibling.
Well, I
Any
mean,
holidays?
we do the balloon launch on Russell's birthday. Russell's birthday is New Year's, so we always do a big party, and at midnight, a number of people write messages on balloons, and we sort of send them up.
Oh, cool. Cool.
And do that every year.
I would say getting involved with the Compassionate Friends to me is ritualistic. Holiday dinner, we do walk, we do balloon launch. I think
you both do a lot of things to honor and pay tribute to Russell and Lori, and to keep their memory alive.
Well, we want to thank you both for being on the show today. It's been great, and it's wonderful to know you, and thank you for all the work you're doing in the name of your siblings. Huh?
Absolutely. Keep fighting the good fight, you guys. Keep getting out there. You are touching hundreds and hundreds and thousands of bereaved siblings' lives. I'm so honored to know you guys, and keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us on the show.
Yep. And now we're going to have Capathia Jenkins and Amber Inman singing We Will Never Be Apart as Sisters, and we want to thank you for watching our show today, and please watch it next week, and please tell people about Open to Hope. They can go on the internet. We have many things going on the internet. We have TV shows, we have radio shows, all sorts of things for you and for them to find hope after loss, and that's our true hope that that will happen. And we want to thank you for watching.
Thank you.
Cool.
Lina. Harriet, what am I going to do? We got to find a way to cut these chains. They're too strong. There's a blacksmith shop down the street. I can get a tool. Don't leave me. Don't leave me. They'll be back in a minute. Please don't leave me. Shh. I won't leave you. They're taking me deep south. I just know it. I'm never going to see you again. How do I go on without you? How will I ever smile again? How can I live when all that I love is torn from my side? How can I go on without you? You who have been my truest friend, lifting me up through heartache and fear again and again. We will never be apart, we're sisters. I will always be there by your side. There are simply bonds that can't be broken by distance or time. There won't be a day when I'm not with you. You will always be safe in my heart, waiting for the world when at last our sorrows are past. But until that day, we will never be apart. Harriet, think of my children. I'll never see their smiles again, never to know what becomes of them. It's too great a pain. Lina, I'll look to your children. God as my witness, I'll find a way to bring them to a far brighter day, to life without chains. We will never be apart, we're sisters. I will always be